know, nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Well, this is the episode you've all been waiting for. The decision has been made. Breaking news, Judd Zulgad's been at the XL Energy Center. You're literally like in the press box at the XL Energy Center right now, celebrating your favorite wild hockey player of all time, Mikko Koivu, having his number retired today.
A festive night. The number 9 in the rafters, much like I expect at US Bank Stadium, Phil Mackey, one day, the number 8 will be raised to the rafters for the Vikings.
So, let's just get to it here. Presented by our friends at Surly Brewing Company, TCL. TCL with an award-winning set of new televisions for you to be entertained through. And you can also find go to TCLUSA.com and find your favorite TV. I don't have the copy in front of me, but Kirk Cousins is going to be the Minnesota Vikings quarterback for the next 2 seasons, ironclad. Because Kirk Cousins cares only about winning the negotiation and getting ironclad money versus helping and working with the team that he plays for to win a championship. Now, I will say, if you're going to extend Kirk Cousins and you're going to commit to multiple more years of Kirk Cousins, the way that they landed with this contract structure is about as good as you can do. And so we'll get into all of this, but here it is, and I'll throw it to Judd to get your thoughts. But Kirk had the Vikings over a barrel. Kirk wants short-term, ironclad, guaranteed contracts with no trade clauses, and he gets all of that. It is, according to Adam Schefter, a 1-year, fully guaranteed $35 million extension for 2023, and so he's going to get $70 million guaranteed over the next 2 seasons. Now, what's in it for the Vikings? Okay, they get to lower his 2022 cap hit from $45 million down to $31 million, which helps them become cap compliant going into the week of free agency. There's other moves I'm sure to be made here. And there's been a flirtation with Deshaun Watson that at some point came to an end here over the last 12 hours. They also added 2 void years to his contract. We're getting way in the weeds here, but it's important to know that this is a 1-year extension with void years, according to reports, in 2024 and 25, which essentially gives the Vikings the ability to smooth his cap into future seasons in which he isn't actually playing for the Vikings. But the headline here is the Vikings have committed ironclad no trade clause to 2 more years of Kirk Cousins, 2022 and 2023. Your thoughts?
I'd like to say I'm surprised, but with everything that we have heard the last month or so, Phil, I'm not. We basically had heard that the idea with new GM Kwesi, Adofo-Mensah, and probably just as, if not more importantly, new coach Kevin O'Connell, was to keep Kirk and to work with Kirk. Yeah. And I really do think that Kirk made the negotiation far tougher than those 2 gentlemen expected. I thought that they would think that Kirk would be all on board with trying to help them out financially because, Kirk, we're here to work with you, as opposed to Zimmer, who who worked against Kirk, I think. But yeah, I mean, this is what transpired. It might be a little bit more financially than they wanted, but this was their first choice. Like, for all we talked about, and they definitely made calls on Deshaun Watson. They definitely had some talks where they got calls on Kirk, but I told you, what I heard the entire time was they kept telling teams, our intention is to keep Kirk. And so they did that. And now I will say this, I hope they're right. I hope that they are right, that they can turn Kirk at the age of 34 now?
Yes, he'll be 34, yeah.
I hope that they can turn Kirk at the age of 34 years old, a veteran in this league, into something that he has not been through coaching. Because this is expensive. Kirk has basically called his shot, and contractually, he has won, in my opinion, a 3rd Super Bowl. He continues to win championships negotiating. So I'd like to be surprised. I'm not. I personally would not have done this. But I also am not surprised, given all the information that came in the last month plus, that this is the contract and the at least for now landing spot for Kirk Cousins to be the quarterback who I guess KOC and Kwesi will sink or swim with.
Dude, all right, Dex, what are your thoughts? You go ahead.
Well, I love that basically Kirk won this negotiation for like the third time. He went into free agency in Washington saying, I want to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. It's rare for quarterbacks hit the unrestricted free agent market. He cashed in, he got his. The Vikings took their shot because they had a window of a roster that was ready to win right now. And then he does the deal again in 2020 to help smooth out the deal. And now that Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah are basically hitching their wagon to Kirk, it's that they don't, number one, feel as strongly that they can find another quarterback that can help them win right now, or also they don't have any trust in the draft that the next quarterback is going to be there either. I think the idea of just moving on from him, that it was going to be an ironclad situation, that they're going to move on from Kirk, it's going to happen no matter what, was still a little half empty there. I thought that they were still in the market that they wanted to extend Kirk. So I'm not surprised that he ends up sticking around here. But I am shocked that they basically caved at the salary demands and the no trade clause movement. The fact he basically won that negotiation part at the poker table, I think, is what really strikes me, that basically Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell, to a degree, essentially bought into that. That's what I'm most surprised at initially from this.
There's so much to unpack here. Excuse me. There's so much to unpack here, but my first thought is, why would you sign up for 2 more years of something that has proven over the course of 10 years to not work? Paying a good quarterback a lot of money. Now, I will say, it's nice that they brought his cap number down to $31 million from $45. It still takes up 15% of the team's salary cap in 2022. And I'll make note that no team has won a Super Bowl ever in the history of the last 30 years, the modern era of salary cap football, with a quarterback making more than 13% of the cap. And so it's amazing to me that you blow out your general manager, you blow out your head coach, in large part because the signing of Kirk Cousins didn't work. Didn't work. The 4 years before Kirk Cousins, you averaged 10 wins per season, 2 division titles in 4 years, and a 13-3 record and trip to the NFC Championship game. And you brought Kirk Cousins on board to be the final piece to that puzzle. And everything got worse in the next 4 years. 0 divisions, you averaged 2 fewer wins per year, and everybody got fired. And the new regime comes in and says, you know what? Let's sign up for 2 full ironclad seasons of this, even when we're given a chance to get out of it. Now, what we don't know is, we do know that they were having discussions with other teams. The Colts were in the mix on Kirk Cousins. What we don't know is, A, what were they offering? And B, was Kirk Cousins refusing to talk extension reasonably with some of the other teams and thus holding the Vikings over a barrel with this massive cap hit on a 1-year mercenary deal, right? It seems to me that these guys had a chance to wipe the slate clean with really like no expectation of competing for a championship in 2022. Again, new general manager, new head coach. This is a reset year if you want it to be. But when you do this, when you extend a 34-year-old quarterback for still, even with, they did a good creative job here with the void years of bringing his cap number down a little bit, okay? So I will give them that credit. But you are signing up to compete for a Super Bowl in 2022 and 23 with one of the 5 or 6 worst defenses, aging players all over the field, 30-year-old Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, 32 years old. I mean, that defense is going to look much different in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks from now, too. You're still, even with this extension, one of the 6 or 7 worst cap situations in the NFL. This was a great chance to take a deep breath, to reset, and to find the next iteration of Vikings football. And they are literally running it back again. And that's where my mind's at right now. What do you guys like? You guys had a chance to go in a different direction and wipe the slate clean, and you're actively choosing to run this thing back. The same thing we've seen the last 4 years.
The reality of this, though, Phil, is that the Wilfs do, I guess, genuinely, and a lot of people probably genuinely believe that this team was miscoached, was not led well, and that this core group of players, and there are some good ones, but that's the key word, some, that this core group of players can get you to a place where I think I think the comeback is there are a lot of us. Hey, the Wild just scored. That's good.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You can't tell, can you? Can't tell. Now turn the horn down. Turn that horn off. But where a lot of fans and people like us, I think, looked and said, hey, guess what? In 2018 and into 2019, you took your shot. And now that time has passed. And the whole idea, I've been on board with the GM being fired. I was on board with the coach most certainly being let go. And my next thing was, okay, let's get back to reconstructing the roster after that. They aren't doing that. I mean, there's just a division here. But this also comes back to, and this can be a good thing in life, but I think in sports, it can also be a dangerous thing. This whole thing about collaboration, right? We're going to collaborate. We're going to have a lot of, the Wills basically said, hey, we didn't realize because we were so enamored with our MLS team in Florida that the head coach and GM weren't talking. But now we want everyone to get along. And it feels like right now that there are a ton of chefs in the kitchen. And so everyone's got their say. And I really do think that they are in a very different place mindset-wise than we are. And then a lot of the smarter people in their fan base are. So I think it's simple, but it's sort of frustrating because I also don't think they understand exactly how much work needs to be done. And I also don't think that they really get who Kirk is. And to me, the contract negotiation showed perfectly who Kirk is.
Well, yeah, I think another thing too here is, I was telling you guys this just, we were texting earlier today, like, what the hell? Like, the Vikings, you can literally start to agree to contracts with free agents in 18 hours from now, and they have so much work to do. Kwesi got this job, a month and a half ago, and Kevin O'Connell came on board late. I mean, Super Bowl was the latest it's ever been. And so these guys join up together late in the game relative to some of the other teams in, NFL history. And they're staring at this tangled knot of transactions that need to happen. They have to get cap compliant. They're one of the 4 or 5 worst cap situations. You got the Kirk Cousins contract looming. And then you got, if that doesn't go well, then you're sort of at the mercy of, okay, if you're going to trade him, then now you're on Cleveland's timeline. Now you're on the Colts timeline. And then the Deshaun Watson thing goes down. It's like all this stuff. Daniil Hunter. You take the job, and it's all celebratory. All right. This is great. My family and I, we get to move to Minneapolis and run a professional sports franchise. And oh my God, look at what has to be done in the next 5 weeks. And I do wonder, what was that process like behind the scenes? How much did they just say at one point or another here, just say, you know what, screw it. Let's just, KOC, you got a framed Kirk Cousins jersey signed in your office from the Washington days because you loved working with each other. You know what? If you want to tie your potential only shot at being a head coach to Kirk Cousins, then so be it. All right, here he is. We'll try and do what we can with his cap hit. But, I mean, imagine, this is, again, Kevin O'Connell clearly thinks differently, but imagine signing up for your first ever head coaching and general manager job with no guarantees for a second opportunity. And you say, all right, that 34-year-old guy who's never come close in his football life, high school, college, or the NFL, to sniffing a championship game, ever. It's everything else around him that's been the problem for years and years. He's the unluckiest dude ever. Let's sign up for 2 more ironclad seasons of Kirk Cousins and hitch our careers to him and see where we can take this thing.
Right.
I mean, it is like, people talk about the risk of, well, be careful what you wish for if you move on from Kirk Cousins. Who's the quarterback going to be? Not remembering that the Vikings have won divisions and have gone to the playoffs with crappy quarterbacks like T-Jack and Ponder and, second-year Teddy Bridgewater. Do not fear moving on from a quarterback if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan.
Right.
These guys literally attached their careers to Kirk Cousins for the next 2 seasons. That, to me, is riskier than going to a blank canvas and walking into the draft and bridge quarterbacks, etc. You got to be almost perfect building a roster now in free agency and the draft.
Yeah.
No room for first-round whiffs going forward here for these guys.
Beyond Kirk, here's what I guess I don't get, though. What I don't get is O'Connell is supposed to be a quarterback guy. And so why wouldn't you want the chance? And it doesn't have to be in 22, but why wouldn't you have wanted that chance to draft one? Because there's overwhelming evidence now that's out there that if you get it right, and by the way, bank on yourself. I can do this. I can find that guy. Then from a cap perspective, you are now in a sweet spot to pursue championships very quickly. That's what I don't get. So beyond Kirk, I don't understand. It feels to me like there is not indecision here. It feels to me like there is a hesitancy in what they feel they're capable of doing, which concerns me. And I am really in the camp of saying this. I want to give O'Connell and Adofo-Mensah both a chance. Like, I don't want to jump on here today and crush them. That's not my goal. They're new. They could be really good. I don't know. Is this the type of confidence that I want to see when it comes to the most important position in sports? No, it's not. I wanted to see a confidence of we're going to find a guy, and we got 5 years of control then. And instead, this is like they were hired with the Kirk plan, and I just don't know who thinks internally, the Wilfs, that is a good idea.
Yeah. Here, did Dex pop this up on the screen here? So this is from overthecap.com, it looks like, based on that hilarious table that they have on every player page. And so 34-year-old Kirk Cousins will have a cap hit of $31 million. And the base salaries are always kind of, he's got a $15 million base salary each of the next 2 years. But then he's got prorated bonuses and roster bonuses and there's the guarantees, et cetera. All that matters is the cap hit, because that's where we get into roster construction, right? So he's got a 15% cap hit in 2022. Again, no team has ever won a championship with a quarterback of any caliber, Hall of Fame or otherwise, taking up over 13% of the salary cap. So at least you get him closer. Like, you get him from 20 or 23% down to 15%. And then next year, his cap hit is 36%, which is projected to be about 16% of the 2023 cap. And then the first void year currently holds $12.5 million in dead cap money. So they would be paying, 5% of their salary cap to a guy that potentially won't be on the roster in 2024. This is so interesting because now we move into, all right, what else? I mean, they have signed up to win now, right? I mean, am I wrong? I mean, I in my head, I was kind of like, I'm totally willing to give these guys a pass in 2022. I mean, they're literally signing up to win a Super Bowl in 2022.
The Wilfs,
tell me I'm wrong.
The Wilfs have hired people that convince them that they can take the current team and basically, with a coach and GM who get along, mold it. I just disagree completely, but that goes beyond Kirk. That's not the big Kirk fight to me. The fight there is your defense was atrocious, and you're going to you really think in a year, build that back up. And I'm not saying, again, to be very, very clear here, can they make the playoffs as like a 6 or 7 seed? Absolutely. But the goal of the show from day one has been what? To win a Super Bowl championship. Can this team win a Super Bowl? Absolutely not. They're not going to. Sorry, I can tell you that right now. So that's the thing. But yeah, they have diluted themselves. And again, just to be very, very clear, this goes well beyond Kirk Cousins. They have diluted themselves into basically, and what they'll try and sell now is Mike was the devil. Zimmer was the devil. He was all the problems. The coaching was terrible. We didn't really know that the GM and coach quit talking, and now it's going to mesh and work. And I'm sorry, the pieces of the puzzle, which at one time were pretty damn good, got their chance and failed. And I don't know why we think with just this team, Phil, right now has, as we talked about last night when speculating about Deshaun Watson, one starting cornerback who's not that good. You've got to replace your basically, 3 of your most important if not two, of your most important positions in the defensive secondary. So like this notion that we will run this back in training camp and we will.
Dude, they're running it back.
I would, but
they're running it, dude. They're running it back.
But in Zolgad, in typical Zolgadian way, I would say you should have asked me or somebody else. That this is a mistake. Like trying to run it back is a mistake, no doubt. Can they make the playoffs? Yes. Can they win a championship? Absolutely not. Resets are necessary sometimes in all of life, but especially in sports.
I just don't understand how two things. So if they're going to lean in to be more like an offensive first team, and it was Zimmer that was the Grim Reaper and the devil that was holding this team back, and now you're going to put KOC involved, who's an offensive-minded guy. You're going to have a guy who loves him so much he has a framed jersey of him from 5 years ago hanging out in his office, right? That's just going to fix things. We're not going to worry about a defense that has still been terrible the last 2 years. We're going to figure out a cornerback to sign in free agency. We're going to figure out another one to get. We're going to get a guard, and just all these pieces are going to make us go from this 6, 7, 8 win team into a perennial double-digit win team. I think is ludicrous. I think they might be a flashy, fun team on offense. Honestly, they might be. That could be fun to see.
I think they will be, actually.
I don't see a path where all of a sudden that their defense vaults them up and also their everything else just starts clicking. I don't see how. I think that's what I'm most puzzled by, the fact they're leaning into this experience saying, no, it was the coach and it was the type of chemistry. Like, they will not hit so many home runs on the defensive side of the ball to make them that much better. So that's where I'm just so confused.
It's so interesting. And I'd say I promise, at least I won't speak for you guys, but I'm not going to bitch about this. Listen, Kirk Cousins is the Vikings quarterback for 2 more seasons. I mean, for those of you and us and me who I honestly thought they were going to trade him. I thought they were going to trade him. And there's some old tweets exposed out there that I'll dig up myself and send them back out.
and they didn't want to.
But they are signing up for 2 more years of Cousins, and with that, they are signing up for the expectation to immediately compete at a championship level. That's the only thing this franchise has never done before. I mean, think about how bold and ballsy that is. These dudes are coming in here and straight up saying the coaching and maybe even the general managing and the relationships and the chemistry and everything behind the scenes and the development of draft picks was all so garbage.
Right.
That we can essentially sign up for continued cap hell. The Wild just score again? Dude, how many goals have they scored since we started?
No, we're not sure yet. It's 2-1 if they scored, but there was only 1 horn, and then they stopped.
There's some void years on
and now the fans are upset.
Yeah. Oh,
this place is a nut house.
No. But I'm trying to process all this as I speak, but I thought they were going to take the freebie step back year. I really did. Hey guys, no one cares if you win in 2022. Like, don't be a total Detroit Lions train wreck, but
yeah,
you guys are fine in 2022 while you clear the deck here and make a run in 2023. And they passed on that opportunity. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and here so in fairness now, Cousins' cap hit is down, significantly down. So like that was my biggest sticking point. What is Kirk's tweet?
Now that's out of the way. Let's get to work on a Lombardi. Hashtag let's freaking go.
Let's go.
You like that?
Let's get it.
What's funny is what Kirk means really is I just won a 3rd negotiating Lombardi. You guys are suckers.
Are you guys going to bitch about this? Are you guys going to complain about this for 2 years? I'm not going to. I swear to God. I'm going to vent today because I don't like this, but whatever. So it's fine.
His cap hit is way down. So what I like about this entire thing, and where I'm on board is the pressure now is ratcheted up tenfold.
Yeah.
So and I love that. So like the pressure that Cousins is now going to be to face. Like this offense needs to score a ton of points. There is no room for a San Francisco game now. You line up, under the guard, you're going to get filleted 10 times worse.
Yeah.
You throw a bad pick, and he did in San Fran, and that mind bleeps you. The pressure now, and I enjoy this, the pressure now gets turned up again, dialed up. And he deserves that, and he's being paid accordingly. The pressure was high, but look, guys, if he does not, with O'Connell as his coach, become a great, not a good, if he is not, in my opinion, a top 8 quarterback in this league, there's now only one person to look at. And it's not Mike Zimmer, it's not Rick Spielman, it's Kirk Cousins. And so I'm enjoying the prospect here, because if he's great, that's awesome. Yeah. And if he's not, okay. Now there's only one person when you look in the mirror to blame, and you know what? It's you.
Oh man, I'm just going through my. I self-reported. So I tweeted this on January 10th, 2 months ago, at 7:10 a.m. Just waking up with takes. Okay.
Of course.
Said, so what happens with Kirk Cousins now? I can tell you this: there is zero, and I even did the stars around the word zero to emphasize zero chance a new general manager and coach combo walks in and says, let's extend him for multiple years and attach our careers to Kirk Cousins. So Kirk Cousins will get traded.
Hey, you held him at 20 points, man. Yes, you gave us a chance at the end, but I got 3 words for you. You like that?
That's right. I don't know. I was hacked. I swear to God, I was hacked. I don't know. You guys
I think we all thought that. Well, I think when the change was made from Mike and Rick, it was logical to think that it was going to be threefold, right? GM was gone, coach was gone, likely at that point in time, quarterback gone. So, I mean, at the time, it made sense. But the Vikings definitely feel like they are a Super Bowl contender as we sit here today. And that is, to me, that's on the Wilfs largely. Yeah. And that is a very interesting and potentially misguided thought.
Yeah. Some people asking him, just going through some of the questions are flying in on the Purple Daily YouTube channel and on our Twitter account. So here's one. I'm sure that so many people are asking, why did the Vikings? So they had a no trade clause initially on the first 3-year contract, and then with the next extension, the no trade clause got removed. Why did the Vikings agree to another no trade clause? There's only like 10 players in the league that have no trade clauses, and Cousins is now one of them again. And I mean, again, we weren't in the room for these negotiations, and I'm sure more information will come out. But to me, that says Kirk was holding the Vikings over a barrel, wanting to maximize his earnings, maybe budged a little bit, and in return said, I'll budge a little bit on the money, but I want to know that I'm in Minnesota for the next 2 years. And that's probably how the negotiation went. Now, if you guys have thoughts on
that. Yeah, I think that Kirk has a need to win. And so my guess is this. He got the no trade agreement in exchange for sticking 2 void years at the end of that contract. That's my guess.
Yeah. Real quick, let's do a reset because we've been rocking for about 30 minutes here. If you're wondering, why is it so loud behind Judd? Judd's celebrating his favorite hockey player of all time, Mikko Koivu, in his jersey retirement ceremony. He's at the XL Energy Center today. This is Purple Daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And Kirk Cousins is going to get a couple more cracks at that in 2022-23 because he just signed a contract extension that pays him $70 million ironclad over the next 2 years. But the Vikings, with some creative structuring of the contract, were able to bring his cap number down $15 million for 2022. But now the pressure is squarely on the organization and Cousins. If you are watching us right now on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, thank you for being part of this community of daily Vikings discussion. Please click the subscribe button and the like button so we can spread the word about this show. And I can see, I think it's pretty split. There's a lot of people that are here to just shove it in our faces. And there's a lot of people that are pissed because they wanted to move in a different direction than Kirk Cousins. But it's at least 2 more years because there is a no trade clause slapped on the top of that contract. So get used to it. And I say that for myself and everybody else. Kirk Cousins is the Vikings quarterback for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting time. Actually, let's do this too as we reset a little bit. Our buddy Tom Pelissero broke down the contract and the negotiation with NFL Network here. Let's play this clip.
Mike, Kirk Cousins is going to be the Vikings quarterback in 2022. The team had received calls in recent days, but just a few minutes ago, the sides agreed on a one-year, $35 million fully guaranteed contract extension. Cousins gets a raise to $40 million in 2022. He'll have $55 million paid out by next March. He also gets a no-trade clause. For the Vikings, they lower Cousins' cap figure by about $14 million, freeing them up at a time that they were very close up against the cap as free agency and a lot of other decisions approach. Kevin O'Connell, the new Vikings head coach who was with Cousins in Washington, had said repeatedly he is excited to build an offense around Kirk Cousins. Well, now he will get to do it. Cousins isn't going anywhere, Mike.
It's our guy, our buddy Tom Pelissero, friend of the show, friend for life there, Tom Pelissero. So I think the next question here is, and we will listen. We're obviously we're going to come back to our normal episode tomorrow. There's a million things to happen here, but the moves that happen now have to be about competing in 2022, right? I mean, like, because we've been sitting here. I think a lot of our conversations have been about, are there players can you get out of cap hell and maybe build up some draft stock for 2022 and 2023? Are there players that you could trade, free up cap space and gain equity in draft capital? But I think now it's less about trading established players for draft picks and maybe there's some of that, but you need to find ways to add to the 2022 team to make a run, right? I mean, that's kind of where they're at this point, right?
100%. I would guess that just a total guess here, Brandon Scherf, who wants to signs here now, because you're going to build up. So as far as I can tell, if this is going to be your philosophy with a team that defensively was terrible, and I guess you're hoping that Donatel can somehow work magic defensively, but you are going to, I guess, from a philosophical standpoint, just try and outscore teams, right?
Yeah.
So like you have to give Kirk now the best offensive line possible. You have to give him no excuses. Like where he can't say, but this fell apart, but that fell apart. You have to put him in a position to say, Kirk, you have to do this. The pressure, again, I'll go back to that. It just went up tenfold. Like, this is on him now. Justin Jefferson, you have to make throws to him that you don't want to make, but you have to do it now. Like, we'll put you in the position. We'll call plays, certainly better than Clint Kubiak did. That's not hard to do. But there's going to be times where you don't want to throw the ball, dude, and you're going to have to. And it might get picked, and we'll decide what type of pass that was after the fact. But the Kirk Cousins is going to have to do things if this team is going to achieve the success that they think that they can, and I have doubts about that. But if they're going to achieve the success that they think that they can, Kirk Cousins is going to have to make plays that Kirk Cousins often despises. And I don't see a way, I don't think from a cap standpoint, Phil, that you can now go out and just build up defensively. Like, we got this guy and that guy. I think you really probably just say, how do we score 38 points per game?
Vikings now with they're 1.6 below the threshold to get over. So they have 1.6.
So they're below the cap?
Or excuse me, above. The red would signify an over the cap, right? That they're 1.6 because their team. Yep. So they still need to get under a little bit more. But
there's a million things they can do. They can do some simple restructures without even talking to players. Like, there's a million things this kind of solves that. Like this now, I should say this move with Cousins solves the cap compliance issue. Just you got to be under the cap by Wednesday. But now the work has to be done in terms of clearing meaningful space, not just getting below the cap, but like you still need to clear $30 to $40 million in additional space if you want to be actual players in free agency. Like Brandon Scherf, you're not getting a discount on Brandon Scherf. Now, could you push money into future seasons? Yes, absolutely. And that's part of what they did. I mean, they by adding 2 void years to Kirk Cousins' contract in 2024-25, they've given themselves a little more flexibility to push some money into 2023. But to me, that's it. Like Judd threw out Brandon Scherf. It's time once and for all to fix the offensive line. I think you're established at the tackle positions. Ezra Cleveland can play effectively at left guard or right guard, so you got some flexibility there. But go get a center and go get a guard. Don't run it back with Garrett Bradbury. Go find some professional players that can sit in front of Kirk Cousins and give him the best chance, Judd.
But to that point, Phil, if you create now some cap space to sign Scherf, how many of those moves, because it's not going to be a ton, can you make? And do you basically make almost all of them on offense and just try and score a ton? Because you could probably go out and get a cornerback. I mean, hell, you might bring back Peterson on a one-year contract again, and that certainly did not break the bank. But I just have my doubts about like the amount of impact moves. And, keep in mind in 2020 and 21, for all the players that the Vikings signed on the defensive side of the football last spring, they made in each year one impact move. Michael Pearson, 2020, and then Dalvin Tomlinson in 2021. Yeah. Patrick Peterson, Xavier Woods, they were all one-year contracts, and they're basically shopping in the bargain bin. So how many actual impact free agent moves can you talk about? And I think it's probably one, maybe two, if you shed a guy or make some more moves.
Well, and that might. I was going to say that might be enough, but then their defense is in such a transition phase right now. It's a 2-year window. They have created a 2-year window with Kirk Cousins here. And so maybe you shore up the offensive line here, you do what you can, and then, maybe there's ways to, through the draft, maybe you'll have some second-year players in the first and second round that emerge more in 2023. But I think if you can use Kevin O'Connell's Sean McVay tree background, and you can leverage the positives about Kirk Cousins' play and Justin Jefferson, I think you're in a better spot to land offensive free agents than you would have been the last 8 seasons. Like Brandon Scherf or
Sure.
whatever offensive guard, or if there's, now I got to think that some of these there's a couple Tampa Bay offensive linemen. Jensen, the center, he might be going back now because we haven't talked about that. But Tom Brady's coming back too, which is amazing. But I just think it was hard for the Vikings if they couldn't outbid teams to sell free agents on wanting to be here. Like I'm sure the Vikings had discussions with some of the offensive linemen last, March, late February, March. But it's just such an antiquated offensive culture with Mike Zimmer. Now you can go to there's a couple guys from that Rams offensive line, the center and the Corbett, right? There's the center and the guard.
Yes.
And those guys have great relationships, I would assume, with Kevin O'Connell. And now Kevin O'Connell can go in and say, listen, I got my quarterback. I know that people are going to poke holes in that, but this is what they're going to say. I got my quarterback. I got my Matthew Stafford. This team's ready to pop. They're in a better position to sell to these offensive free agents than they would have been under Mike Zimmer. So
are you selling hope on defense then? I hope that Donatel can do a lot. Or I hope that Cam Dantzler's good.
Well, some of this depends. Is Danielle Hunter? I think you got to keep Hunter now.
I would think so.
I think you have to keep Danielle Hunter. How can you? You got 2 years with Cousins. You signed up for 2 years with Cousins here to compete at a high level.
Yeah.
How can you then go off and trade Danielle Hunter?
I don't think you can now.
Pick, right? Yeah.
And I think we've discussed this in depth before. I think by turning his roster bonus into a signing bonus by the 5th day of the league year, you can basically smooth out his potential cap hell hit. But okay, he's back, which is great. I think they're going to have to release Pierce. Like, people have to go here. You can't just be like, we're bringing everybody back. So this defense, I am so on the fence about the fact that, yes, I know it's changing philosophies. I know the coordinator has changed now, but all of that being said, I guess I'm just curious, is it going to take a step up to be, and this is what they've decided, not us, a Super Bowl contender. Yeah. A Super Bowl contender, not a playoff contender, a Super Bowl contender.
Right.
Is that defense? That's what they are. That's the message. That's what they are telling us. Mark Wilf said is what they are telling us, which is we think that we could contend for a championship. Brady's back in Tampa right now. Rodgers back with the Packers. So this whole thing of 3 weeks ago saying Rodgers might be in Denver, Brady was gone at that point. Like, this conference is wide open. That whole thing has changed, and the Vikings are doubling down and saying, no, you guys are wrong. We are Super Bowl contenders. And okay, playoff game. Let's say you get to the playoffs. Let's say, Phil, you're a 6th seed. Are you telling me that this defense in a playoff game where things change a lot and where there's a lot of pressure and you have to be good, this defense can play and actually excel in a playoff game and championship? So I'm talking divisional round. I'm talking conference championship game. I'm not talking first round game. This is where I'm a little bit confused. And I don't think they necessarily understand what they're biting off here.
Yeah, I think that is the expectation. The franchise, and we say it every day. We start the show every day, or if we or I forget, we say it at the end, right? We want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And so there really is no other, unless they go into a full rebuild mode, then it's like, okay, then now we go back to sort of step 1 is 500, and then step 2 is division, right? But like, by doing this, they don't get the leeway of like, okay, let's first steps first, 9 wins, right? Like, no, that's already been happening. Kirk Cousins is an automatic ticket to 500, so that's the baseline. That is the expectation, right? I think that's the bar by which we should be assessing and judging the moves and the results in the games in 2022, right? I mean, is there any Dex? Judd?
How else are we supposed to perceive this? Like, you are literally bringing back a quarterback. You had options galore. You had the menu of choose your own adventure. Which included a nuclear option of everybody's gone, which I didn't expect. Yeah. But they're bringing back Kirk Cousins. And in doing that, Phil, you're right. Are you going to turn around now and say, okay, we brought Kirk back, but Daniil, you're gone? I don't think so. I think he's back. Yeah. So yes, they are basically doubling down on what Mark Wilf said when they made the change, which to me, you don't have to do a lot of work here, you guys, to read between the lines. To me, what they are saying is this was on Zimmer and Spielman. They're gone. We're good. Yeah. I don't know. I agree with that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's where it stands. They basically are saying that KOC is going to be a better person and better infrastructure for Cousins, and then we'll just run this back one more time. I mean, yeah, they might trim some fat, right? Michael Pierce might be cut. They might be able to bring in a cornerback who's better than Patrick Peterson. But in general, they're saying we can lean into our offense and make this Vikings team look like a more modern NFL team and therefore also win double-digit games. Yeah. I think they can be fun to watch on offense. That part I have no problem agreeing with, but the fact that they can be a perennial or a lock-in double-digit win team next season, I think is a little far-fetched.
Yeah.
As it stands now.
Yeah. Once again, this is Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Please click the subscribe button and the like button so we can spread the word about this Vikings community. And it's all kind of crystallizing now. I mean, I think this draft is so cornerback and edge rusher heavy in the top 15 picks too, that, okay, this is the path that they have chosen. And so now it's time, to me, to fix the offensive line in free agency and to draft young, athletic cornerback, edge rusher types in the first, second rounds, maybe even third rounds of this year's draft. And then, what do you do? To me, this, I know there was some chatter about Adam Thielen maybe being on the chopping block because they got to clear money. I think it's an automatic now that Thielen comes back. I don't think you re-sign Kirk and then trade Thielen. So Thielen's coming back. I think on defense, they have some decisions to make on Eric Kendricks, 30-year-old linebacker, right? It's just one of your 5 highest paid players. He's a Ring of Honor guy, but I think if you're looking to shuffle some money around, but I think you keep Dalvin now. I mean, like, you're not going to save a lot in cap space by getting rid of Dalvin in 2022. So I think Dalvin's on the team. I think Thielen's on the team. I think Daniil Hunter is very much still up in the air. I think Eric Kendricks is still up in the air. and then they obviously have to figure out Harrison Smith too. But I think just based on what Kevin O'Connell has already said about him publicly, he's not going anywhere.
This is very intriguing too because of this. This creates more questions in my mind about the still great mystery of Rick Spielman basically being fired when he thought that Mike was going to be fired and he was not. Because basically the Vikings are actively saying Rick built a pretty good team here. Like to me, this throws it all on Mike. He's a terrible coach. He was a terrible person. He was and I don't know what got Rick fired. I still don't know. I would love to. But if you look at what they're doing, they are not tearing his team apart.
Yeah.
They are doubling down and saying with the right people in charge, we can win. And so yeah, I am really surprised that at the end of the day, they have decided that Mike was terrible.
Which is true. I think two things can be true. I do think people are putting it too much on Mike. Mike deserved to be fired. So let's start there.
And so did Rick. I agree.
But what were people saying about Mike before they signed Kirk Cousins? Oh my God, this guy's one of the best coaches in the NFL. He's taking these random quarterbacks with his great defense to the NFC Championship game. And he even warned everyone, beware the Ides of March. Beware of paying a quarterback $30 million. Like he was out there at the combine saying that. Now, okay, Mike, this is your quarterback now. And he then turned into a petulant child and decided to not build a relationship with Kirk Cousins. The other thing, the huge wild card here too, I saw that, I think it was Mike Clay from, was Mike Clay ESPN now? PFF? But he had he was ESPN. He was looking at the Vikings draft picks from last year, saying they drafted 11 players, and outside of Christian Darrisaw and a little bit of Kene Nwangwu, got nothing out of those players. Yeah. And that's the biggest wild card here is are there like 4 players in that group that are actually ready to contribute, and Mike Zimmer was a petulant child and trying to stick it to Rick Spielman and said, sorry, I'm not going to play Wyatt Davis. What we don't know is Wyatt Davis could be a starting guard.
Yeah.
He could be a bust, and we don't know.
Right.
Now, Kwesi has thoughts on it, I'm sure. I'm sure Kevin O'Connell has thoughts on it, right?
Right, but you probably can't afford it. But what's intriguing about this whole thing is I don't think that you have the ability now, unless you have evidence that is beyond a shadow of a doubt that Wyatt Davis can play. Like, I don't think that you can plug him in at the start of training camp because let's say he can't. You're in huge trouble there. And if you are going to go all in on Kirk again, then it is incumbent upon you to give Kirk everything he needs to strip away his excuses. Like that's what you have to. If you now go half-ass and say, oh yeah, we'll give you most of it, but not all of it, then you're basically already writing your own ticket out of town. So I think that the next step now is you've got to give. Kirk's got the skill position guys for sure, but now it's got to be. The right guard's really damn good. The left guard's good. The center's probably different, right? Yeah. Like, I don't think you can take chances here and be like, oh, well, we were wrong on the center. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Do you think it's more ballsy or cowardly to attach the first 2 years of your GM and coaching careers to a 34-year-old Kirk Cousins?
I would pick the word misguided personally. I don't think it's cowardly. I don't think it's ballsy. I think it's the misguided sports thing that I think takes place a lot of time prominently with men where they think they can change a guy. They think, give me Kirk and it's going to be great. And I've seen enough of Kirk. I'm telling you right now, he is going to, in his own way, melt down or do something stupid at a time where it can't happen. And the problem then is it's like, oh, well, I didn't think that would take place. And it does. But I mean, I wouldn't call it ballsy or cowardly. I think it's a misguided idea of how good they are at their jobs by thinking that they can do something that when it comes to Kirk, I don't think is doable. And I say that not because of Mike. I say that, Phil, because of Washington. These guys worked with them before. Like, how was Cousins not just by default a perennial playoff quarterback? And I know I'll get the stats. The defense wasn't good, but Shanahan, LaFleur, O'Connell. Like, we're running through a pretty good list. And Jay Gruden might have been terrible. That's fine. But that's a pretty good list of guys who have had a lot of success. And at the end of the day, statistically, Kirk had success, but they never reached the mountaintop that now Kwesi and O'Connell think they can with Kirk. So it's an interesting question.
It is, man. Real quick here, 2022 NFL QB cap hits. I want to see if this has been updated.
I'm playing the organ. Don't mind me.
Okay.
Guys right by me.
You are a great organ player. Absolutely.
I wish I could. I should have learned how to.
So they do have it updated. So Kirk Cousins is now the 6th highest. Here are the cap hits for quarterbacks in 2022. Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed yet, but it'll come down. He's 46, but that's coming down. Deshaun Watson is 40 million. Tannehill 38. Oof. Matt Ryan came down to 37. Pat Mahomes at 36, and then you get to Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff both at $31 million. So,
well,
there you have it, man.
Personally, my stance has changed a bit now because I will say this: that the cap hit was unworkable. This is now workable.
It's workable.
It's workable, and that's fair. Now, I guess my thought is this: can Kirk operate successfully with a coach who's going to be far more favorable to Kirk, but with extreme pressure? Because make no mistake, and Kirk feels pressure. We've seen that before. He now has an onus on him that is going to be tremendous. And you know what? He signed the contract, so that's his choice. But the pressure on Kirk now is huge because this team is flat out, in my opinion, saying, okay, our defense might give up 35 or more, and we think our offense, led by our quarterback, can outscore them. And guess what that takes, guys, at times? That takes risky plays. That takes big, ballsy moves on the field. That's somebody Kirk has not been. Kirk threw a touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson in the win against the Packers. Keep it down out there. And Kirk said post-game, I shouldn't have thrown that ball. And it was a touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson. I would disagree with that. I think you need to throw that ball more often. If it gets picked, we can talk about it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you guys will back off on your criticism of a man who I have said all along is Mr. Game-Winning Drive, the 2-minute Terminator, the secondary slayer.
Where's your hat?
The fourth quarter pharaoh.
Oh, your hat's behind you.
It is. I don't have the custom
Kirk patch that you put on it. That was great.
Judd, is there a Cousins on the Predators? Because I'm seeing Matt Boldy just went to the box for slashing Cousins, and I'm very confused right now.
Yes, there's a Cousins on the Buffalo Sabres and a Cousins on the Predators.
Okay, I was just making sure.
We got Cousins all over the place.
Judd, when you get home, you're going to pour a big glass of what?
Oh, I'm going to celebrate this contract. I'm thrilled by it. I'm absolutely thrilled. And I am going, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to celebrate with a beer that never lets me down. In fact, I've got this particular beer signed to a long-term contract, and it never holds me up. It always gives me a fair deal, and that is, of course, my friends at Surly Brewing. That is, of course, a Surly Furious, because while the name means I'm mad, the taste makes me happy. Surly Furious. Signed to a very good contract.
Crappy Skull 77 says we should slash Cousins from the Matt Boldy penalty there.
Wow.
I don't know, man.
Hey, it's never boring, gentlemen.
It's never boring.
It's never boring, and that's all we ask for.
No. Also, hey, I want to shout out, if you're a coach that finds himself on a hot seat because your quarterback isn't living up to the contract, then you can always put a pair of Chill Boys on. Chill Boys is the most comfortable underwear you're going to find anywhere in America. They're Minnesota-based, but they're based online. Chillboys.com. What's one word to describe how Chill Boys are making you guys feel today down there?
Renegotiated because about now was it 6-8 months ago when I put on my first pair of Chill Boys, I had to renegotiate my thoughts of what proper underwear should feel like down there. And the bamboo fabric and the performance brand have renegotiated my mindset of how I should feel below the belt. So my one word simple, it's renegotiated.
My one word is assured, because when I put on my Chill Boys, I'm assured of success. Like sometimes when I watch a football game or a sporting event, I'm not assured that the players are going to do what they should. Coaches too. But when I put my Chill Boys on, let me just tell you right now, I am assured of a successful day in the underwear department.
I think the word I'm feeling is clutch. Chill Boys make me feel
Wait.
clutch. Chillboys.com.
Okay. All right. That's good then. Okay.
Yeah, clutch, just like the starting quarterback that I have never doubted. Kirky McClutcherton, 2 more years. By the way, if you go to chillboys.com, just tell them Purple Daily and or Mackie and Judd sent you in. Eric Shaw chimes in the YouTube comment section. My socks are off. I'm in Chill Boys only.
That's Judd's burner, actually. That's Judd at the XL right now.
I've got him on. Here, I'll stand up for you.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
I still love Kirk. So Kirk sent out that tweet that Declan read earlier. Now that that's out of the way, ... Let's get to work on the Lombardi. Hashtag let's frickin' go. Frickin'.
Let's frickin'.
Oh, I love
Just
Kirk
want to see
Cousins.
the Vikings win
And
a
meanwhile-
frickin' Super Bowl before
And
we
meanwhile, KG is dropping F-bombs in Boston tonight.
Was he?
That's
On the
yeah.
mic?
I guess yes, on the mic. I guess his first comment was he dropped like 2 F-bombs immediately. That's why I love Garnett. He's
I mean,
hilarious.
David Ortiz did it after the Boston.
Yeah, it's
Marathon
Boston.
bombings,
You can
too.
do what you want, man. They're tough.
All right, let's let Judd get back to watching playoff stretch hockey here. We will have plenty more because tomorrow, Purple Daily is the place to be this week. There's going to be the regular episodes every day, but probably some more emergency episodes as more moves happen. But this was the one that we were all waiting for. I was literally refreshing Twitter every 15 seconds.
I know.
All
Had a
weekend
feeling.
until.
Had a feeling it was coming, didn't you?
So here it is. All right, boys. Any final thoughts from you guys as we roll out of this thing?
I need to digest it more.
There's a lot to digest from this weekend.
I have a-
It's going to be packed tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot of
on the
statements.
board.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. From the pros
Mm-hmm.
to perhaps one of the greatest high school games I've ever seen on Saturday night. Boys
That was
hockey.
amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible.
Over in Maple Grove, and Declan was there.
I was.
Thanks for the
You're welcome.
invite.
I'll tell
Freaking
the
double
I'll tell
overtime.
the missus next time to invite you. We'll do.
Mom has tickets. I don't see why I couldn't have come along and provided my
Let them know.
my Zolgadian expertise on high school hockey.
Just wearing a trench coat and mesh
Yeah.
shorts, just like Judd does at high
What
school.
about like Chill
sporting
Boys?
events.
No, I'd be in Chill Boys now. And I'd be drinking a Surly too. That's the other thing. Forget this high school league crap. Anyway, all right,
All
boys.
right,
I'll
that's
talk to you tomorrow.
That's a wrap. Our awesome executive producer over there, Declan, holding it down. Judd at the X, Phil Mackey here. We'll see you guys tomorrow, Purple Daily.